we're not the best fit for every company out there, but we're a good fit for many companies. If you're up for it, let's have a chat. I'm not going to try to sell you. Let's just find out if we're a good fit for each other.
Burn out early, know your thresholds, do everything yourself that you can, learn everything yourself you can. And then if it doesn't work, listen to what people are saying to you versus what you think people need to hear.
Welcome to the DesignRush Podcast. I'm your host, Kia Johnson. In this episode, I'm joined by two visionary founders, Raulf, CEO of Boulder SEO Marketing, and Kelley, CEO of Silent Beacon. We go deep on what it really takes to grow beyond the buzzwords and into the systems, signals, and strategies that drive lasting traction. Chris built a global SEO agency by focusing on clarity, multilingual reach, and performance-driven content. Kelley turned a personal crisis into a mission-led safety product, proving that real growth starts with solving one problem exceptionally well. If you're scaling a B2B brand and want to do it without burning out your team or your reputation, this conversation is your playbook. Watch the episode on YouTube or listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Got a story worth sharing? Email us at spotlight@designrush.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more executive insights. Hi, Chris and Kenny. Welcome to the DesignRush Podcast. It's so wonderful having you here with us on the show today. I'm going to start out with my first question to both of you. Okay. I'd like to start out talking about this shift that we're seeing regarding lead generation, in that it's actually no longer just about chasing prospects. It's about being discoverable. I mean, if you look at the numbers, it actually backs it up. According to HubSpot, 71% of marketers now prioritize organic visibility over outbound. So if you look at this and you kind of take a step back, how are you thinking about discoverability in 2025? And I think, Kenny, you can start out answering this question before going over to Chris.
Sure. So historically, I have a long kind of track record in SEO. I kind of started in that in 20, maybe even 1999 when it first came out. So I believe, organic has always been the way I've gone. We're not even outbound, we're all inbound. So that kind of algorithm and following what keyword trends work, it has always been essential for our business and all businesses I've been a part of. So I've created everything starting from there. So it's not a big pain point or shift for me because that's kind of always something I've done. I'm sure Chris has, a little bit more insight dealing with different varieties of businesses than I do, though.
I mean, it's a pretty complex question, in my opinion, as things are changing in the digital marketing world with AI emerging, right? So the discoverability now demands a human-driven strategy and AI-assisted execution, if possible. Organic visibility through targeted value-rich micro SEO, that's a methodology that we invented here, is key. I'm actively paying attention to voice search. I'm sure you guys know about AI overviews and now AI mode, right? Conversational AI search behaviors. That's a big thing that we're addressing now. Discovery isn't just text-based Google searches anymore. I'm actively aligning our tactics with multiple interactive channels, but I agree with Kenny. I'm not a fan of outbound at all. I think it's all about inbound. I've been doing SEO since the very beginning, since Google, was called Backrub back then. So I'm a big fan of inbound. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
A lot has changed. Chris is now talking about just the shifts within AI and obviously just a lot of trends that are currently happening. But I would just say, in general, how has your approach to attracting clients actually evolved in the past year? Has there been a shift? I mean, you did speak to the fact that you look at things on an organic level, but has there perhaps been any elements that you've added to that?
Yeah. So, we have added elements to it, right? You see expansion on different platforms like social media, like LinkedIn, and a lot of people do white papers now and things like that to kind of get their foot in the door with special clients. So it's really evolving and kind of playing the algorithm game. And just staying on top of what works, what doesn't, and then kind of reviewing those reports maybe every quarter to kind of see trends and see where to move it properly, kind of move the needle the right way.
Yeah. And then for yourself, Chris, I mean, from your agency perspective, like how has your approach been shifting to attracting clients? How has that evolved in the past year? Yeah.
I love that question. So my business partner, he's from Brazil. I'm from Switzerland. I'm, conservative. He's like flashy and shiny and, so he wanted to do outbound in a very strategic way. So I finally agreed to it, and we've done it for the last year and a half or so. And I hate it, to be honest. We've done email marketing, mass outreach. We hired salespeople to help us with, outbound. We bought expensive, lead generation technologies and leads and all that. And we did it. And the results are actually really bad. If we have to reach out to people that need SEO, that's a bad thing, in my opinion, So I agreed to it. We did it, and we completely stopped the mass outreach techniques. So now my focus is heavily on, thought leadership. That's how I built this business, right? I started speaking at meetups, and now I speak globally. People find me. If you do a search for like international SEO expert, I show up at the very top in Google, right? So people find me. So thought leadership. We do a lot of webinars, high quality content through our micro SEO strategy. If you do a search, for example, for SEO price guide, we're at the very top in Google, right? So it's high quality content. So the goal is attracting ideal clients through valuable insights and advice rather than chasing leads outright. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're speaking about bulk sending, and that actually brings me to my next question, because Google and Yahoo have rolled out very strict rules now for bulk senders. And this obviously means that a lot of the cold outreach is just not getting through anymore. So Kenny, I want to start off with you with this question. On your end, what would you say is actually breaking through the noise in 2025?
The fact that we don't do any outbound, it really doesn't affect me. And I think it just goes back to kind of sharpening your sword on what SEO and the kind of research in your algorithm is working, right? So what breaks through the noise is continuing to kind of be on top of the cusp of being able to break through to these clients by giving the content that Chris is talking about, by giving real resources for people to use and not just going to your site like, okay, yes or no. You don't want a yes or no when they go to your site. They want to, I'm going back to this site. I want to know more. These resources are valuable to me, and then go on from there.
Do you feel that, just another question to follow up on that, Kenny, that because you have that kind of strategy, I would say in essence, because that's what it is, that just your loyalty in terms of just your customer, your end user, do you feel that actually helps keep that customer there because you have this kind of approach to it?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the title of this podcast, right? It's really about keeping, your kind of values, mission statement intact while growing, and then how do you spread the resources once you bring in, clients and money, right? So we've done this the correct way. How do we keep expanding on that and making sure that we don't fall into a trap of throwing too many, casting too many nets and then not pulling any fish, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think also if one were to, just look at it from just that there's so many different organizations out there, that each one is quite unique, and you've managed to find that little pot of gold, if one can call it that, Kenny, I feel, and for yourself as well, Chris, like both of you, you're quite specialized in what you're doing. And that is obviously why you're achieving these successes right now and doing absolutely amazingly well, which I think is brilliant. So what I would like to find out from you is, when something does actually land, like how do you tell if it's really working or just like maybe a lucky hit,
Yeah. So to just finish up on what we talked about before, the outbound, right? We've done it all. We set up new servers, cleaned the email address, etc., etc. Such a painful process that I take absolutely no joy in. We did it. I gave it a shot. I'm like, okay, we'll do it. But I hate it. Okay. So because I've been doing SEO for such a long time, I have a very high EEAT score, right? That's one of the most important ranking signals now in Google's algorithm because I speak globally. So whenever I publish a piece of content that I actually write, it will rank at the top in Google within a very short amount of time. So last year I spoke at a conference in Denmark and I published a piece of content 5 weeks before I spoke there. I wanted to use it as an example. The day before I spoke, I was number one for that very competitive keyword that I created a piece of content for. So to answer your question, to see what's working, proof is in the pudding. Test. And I spent a weekend, honestly, I spent 2 days writing that piece of content. I did it all. It's super high quality. This is what is working. So test things and see if they are working. Everybody's so crazy about doing stuff with AI nowadays. It's not going to work for now. Use AI as part of the research phase, but then put in the work and then you'll see what is working. So sorry, that was a long answer.
Yeah, just to add on to what Chris was saying, as far as, writing this content and getting it out to the right people and what's working, I think it's very valuable that AI is used sparingly, like he's saying, because your personal voice needs to come through, right? So anyone can write copy, anyone can say, whatever, ChatGPT, write me this, right? But it's that personal touch. It's those little nuances that make people come back and be like, okay, this is a thought leader. This is someone I value. And I know he's writing it versus, conclusion. It's very cookie cutter. Now, don't get me wrong to your listeners. If you are just starting out, I would highly advise using AI to come up with content if you don't have the resources. But once you get to a level, obviously such as Chris has, you do need that. You do need your personal touch on there so people know it's you. So as you grow your brand, as you grow your company, don't lose what's true to you. Don't lose that, because that value is important. When people call our company and they ask me for me directly, that's very important. That means what we're doing is working. And I don't think that would happen if we just do cookie cutter, generic, ChatGPT, cut and paste, right? So start with that if you don't have the resources. That will also help you understand your own brand and your own mission statement is getting, AI to kind of regurgitate all that information from the web. So you're like, oh, wow. Oh, okay. I didn't know this stat. I didn't know this. But as you grow, please bring your own personality into it, because that's what people are buying into.
I know that AI is still in the beginning stages now. I don't know, Chris, you probably have a lot to say here, but it is in the beginning stages, and there's so much more that still needs to be done. So a lot of exciting things happening, and a lot of learning curves, and I guess stumbling blocks that's going to be happening along the way as well.
Yeah. So I think we have figured out how to use AI as an assistant here at Boulder SEO Marketing. So we actually built an AI agent called BSM Copilot, where I spent 6 days, creating prompts, crazy amount of prompts that allows us to basically create an outline. There's no question what needs to be in a piece of content. Absolutely no question. And I'm not going to bore you with all the prompts, but it takes everything into account in terms of SEO. So it creates a massive outline. And then once we have the outline, we actually now interview the client. We go through it point by point. So we record that, right? And then we run it through the AI again to get very personal information from the right person onto that piece of content. And then we have, guess what? A real human being write the content in the voice of the customer. It's working so well. So this is how we use AI, right? We drive it, but we use it heavily as part of the research phase.
At DesignRush, we believe that the most successful agencies or the most successful companies are the ones that get seen. I mean, visibility builds trust, and the trust obviously then leads to selection. So how would you say, and I'll start up with you, Kenny, how are you making sure that you show up in the places your ideal clients are actively searching?
Sure. So number one would be making sure the characteristics of an ideal client, right? Not just guessing, not just casting the net. And then once you've established that, I think it's a constant refiner. I don't think any of us can sit here and say, like, we found it. we found our niche. That's it. We're good. So it's constantly kind of playing games against Google, playing games against LinkedIn, playing games against Facebook. Oh, no one watches Facebook. Okay. IG. Oh, no one likes that. TikTok. Okay. Not TikTok, spacecraft, or whatever the next one is, right? So it's constantly staying in front of the curve, constantly innovative. And I like to say, like, we're a fluid company. We continue moving. Even our products, we have Silent Beacon. We have a personal safety device, and then we have a suite of products for businesses. We're constantly evolving. We're constantly updating the apps, the firmware, the hardware. You have to stay ahead of it because this is the world of tech, and you will get lost instantly if you don't.
If you do a search for micro SEO, you'll find a guide that I wrote about this methodology. So it's researching very specific niche keywords in relation to buyer persona profiles, these people that type these keywords into Google, right? And then crafting the top content on the internet, something that's, 10, 20, 30 times better than anything else on the internet. Basically, just follow Google's helpful content creation guidelines. For example, and unfortunately I can't name the customer, but they sell like center pivot irrigation sprinkler technology. So their target audience, they're farmers, right? These farmers, they invest a lot of money into this technology. Like, we had to create the ultimate piece of content where these farmers land on, and they need to learn everything there is to know about that technology. So to me, that's what it takes. I could go on and on, but that's probably a good example.
With so much automation that's currently happening in lead gen, how would you say, and I'll start this with you, Kenny, how do you maintain a human touch that builds trust before the first call even happens?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, again, staying to your core values. So they can trust you because what? Because we answer our customer service calls, because you see our reviews, because, you get a personal touch on the emails, right? So you're giving everyone the same values that they would expect if they're calling their family member or a company that they've dealt with for years. So I think we just always keep that in, right? So as we expand, as we grow, how do we stay to our true values? We just put people in those seats to branch out, right? So we have customer experience reps. We're never going to say, okay, customer experience rep A, you're going to have 50 clients this month. No. Okay, we're going to get 3 more customer experience representatives to each take those 15, because we don't want to get to a position where people, before that first touch, feel like they haven't been able to, get through to us, or we're not answering our phones, or we're delaying them on a response, or haven't got their quote yet. I mean, it can go on and on and on, and we don't want that snowball to even happen. So we always make sure we have butts in the seats. When that comes, everything kind of flows.
Definitely. Chris, I know for you it's slightly different because you've got a combination of the human touch and then also currently what's happening in tech right now.
Yeah. I mean, automation, no doubt, enhances efficiency, it can, right? But lasting relationships thrive on genuine connections. So I intentionally integrate personalized touches into automation if we have to use automation, like custom video audits. Record my screen, personal email check-ins, individual invites. So balancing carefully chosen automation for scale and genuine human-driven interactions builds real client trust from the start.
Very, very true. Kenny, I want to find it from you now. I mean, given your product actually saves lives, does emotional trust play a bigger role in conversion for you?
1,000,000%, right? We're a safety product. You've got to believe in who you're talking to. You've got to believe in the product. So we're really big on transparency. So let's just say an issue does occur. I'm the first one on the phone. I'm the first one to say, if this product doesn't work for you, we'll give you your money back, because we don't need people who don't want us, and we don't want to be in situations where people feel this isn't a good fit, right? And I think that goes to all of my companies. If you're not feeling all in on what we're giving or doing for you, then let's part ways, because the last thing we want is you to go and give us a 1-star review because you're feeling a certain way, but we're not really, understanding your needs. So if it's not a good fit, let's just part ways, because we want that honesty there, and we want to create that relationship with the customer. We have check-ins 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. I check in, VP of sales checks in. Like, we just want to make sure everyone's happy. And we feel, again, with that scaling correctly, you can achieve that and people don't get lost in the shuffle.
Totally hearing you. Okay, so I want to move the conversation a little bit more. Well, we actually still continuing with talking a bit about lead gen, but just kind of really thrashing it out right now. I mean, in some of the B2B sectors, the average cost per lead is over $400. This is according to data from First Page Sage. So it's not just about quantity anymore. And I mean, we're all feeling this in the industries, right? It's not just about quantity anymore. It's actually about quality. So, Chris, how would you say you define a high quality lead for your agency? And then how do you actually avoid chasing the ones that's like draining time and draining resources?
So we used to pay when we did outbound mass email marketing. The cost per lead was about $250, $300. So it's in that range, maybe even a little bit higher. So I completely agree with that number. That's a lot of money. It doesn't mean that they're going to sign on, right? And then generally speaking, so it did work. We signed on clients using mass email marketing. But oh my God, those clients were so difficult. And at the end of the day, it cost me more money, right? Because we parted way after a very short amount of time because I completely agree with Kenny. It was painful to deal with these clients, right? So the clients that find us organically, we do well. We know how to do SEO, right? So somebody finds us, they done their research on our website. We have case studies, etc., etc. So they come to me already knowing a lot about me. They know who I am. I'm sort of like the face of this company. And then you have a conversation where you're exactly on the same level, right? The worst thing when you do outreach, like they're up here, you're down here. You're like the SEO guy that reached out to them, which SEO people already have a bad reputation, right? But this way we're exactly on the same page. Yeah. And then I tell them, hey, look, we're not the best fit for every company out there, but we're a good fit for many companies. If you're up for it, let's have a chat. I'm not going to try to sell you. Let's just find out if we're a good fit for each other. And then we talk about, hey, how's business? How's this? Just have it conversational. I don't sell. I just have a conversation. And if we both believe we want to take this to the next level, then we'll continue the conversation. Often, like, people sign up, they will spend an hour, 2 hours with me, like we do now. And then there's no question. It's like, this is what we're going to do for you. And then they sign on. And then often, like, these clients stay with us for years to come. Yeah.
Kenny, for yourself as well, hey, it's all about that conversation, right?
Yeah, I think so. And, quality over quantity. It goes back to kind of my belief is if cost per lead is so expensive, I mean, it's that way for a reason, right? The more competition, the more costly it is, the more people need it. It's just, Google's way of living in the Bahamas, I guess. So how do you kind of use that to your advantage? And I think that goes back to what I was saying about if your site is a resource center, and then we have a consumer version you can buy on the site, and then we have, case studies, white papers, you're giving someone a destination. So when you've got your marketing team looking like, oh, our conversions are down, our CTR, acronym, it's like, well, people are spending longer time on our sites and more people are return visitors. So you got to kind of count the non-leads in there somewhere, right? There is a value to that because all of us here, like I just went to everyone's website on this panel, right? I didn't buy anything, but now I know about you. I've learned more. It made this conversation more personal. Same with Chris saying he researched me. So it's done its job to some extent where I haven't bought anything. What about 3 months from now when a company comes to me like, we need SEO? Oh, I've got this guy, Chris. I just met him on a podcast. So you're kind of almost building a virtual relationship with customers who might not buy something. There might be looky-loos, and that can get costly if you're looking through that cost per lead. But if you're just looking at eyeballs on your site and you're giving them a destination, if you're giving them a resort with a gift shop and a dine in your room, and you give them all this stuff, then maybe you'll get a couple bites, and then that isn't really a zero conversion. It's something, a longevity, a brand awareness.
Kenny, I love what you said on that point. I had a conversation with a potential client, a very long conversation. It was awesome, but we figured out, hey, we're not a good fit for each other. There were some reasons, right? But he referred us to somebody else, reached out to me, and they're like a very big client now. So I think, karma and all that good stuff. Yeah, that's it, right? You will benefit from being honest and having great conversations.
No, I come from an SEO background. I used to do a lot of I do own an SEO and website company called Fancy Name Studios, but we're only internal clients. It's only through friends and family and businesses I associate with because my time is so valuable these days. But it's true. There is a an element to that you can just be personal, get these leads, and I think if you have these skill sets like Chris does, and I have in the past, I wouldn't say I'm that brushed up anymore. I have a team that does that, but it's a service that's needed, and it's still needed to this day. And I don't think AI is going to take that over. So it is important to build those relationships, to kind of all be on the same page. We can all make money is basically what I'm saying.
I'm hearing you. Chris, I'm curious. I mean, when you're putting out thought leadership, like social content or case studies, what are you actually doing to make sure that attention turns into real pipeline and not just surface level engagement?
That's a great question. Where to begin? So I teach part of a master's degree for University of Strasbourg in France. It's an online degree. Actually, a lot of Americans are in that degree. And then as part of the my course, they have to write a search engine optimized blog post that follows our micro SEO methodology. One of the big things, it's like, hey, you need to include a CTA, call to action, whether it's like, sign up, learn more about this course or something. You would not believe, I went to a content marketing conference. People are crazy about their content. But man, they're so terrible about giving people an option to engage. It's like, put something on there that, read another piece of content, reach out to me, just do something that, relates to the content that's on that page, right? Don't put something that doesn't make sense. Make sure it's relatable. But man, please do have a CTA on your content. Give people the option to do something, whatever it is that makes sense in relation to that piece of content that you're paying a lot of time and money to create.
So true. Yeah, it's definitely it's engaging as well when you bring in that CTA. So you definitely want to include that. Kenny, what do you have to say?
Yeah, no, everything what Chris said was spot on, and I think only thing I could just add to that is again just being not a one-stop shop and having kind of you've got kind of click here, then learn about this, but the end goal, right, is to funnel them into a smaller funnel that gets them to a buy here or a schedule demo here or learn more, right? So you can have this kind of web of information, but each one with either the click through, call to action, it all has to get to that final touch point, and the sooner the better. So there are going to be a lot of looky-loos, and then you can kind of establish who those are because they break off after call to action 1 or call to action 2. So you can look at that, and then maybe you take out one of the call to actions, so it's just a compressed version. So like, all right, are you going to get those people from 1 to 3, or are they still going to break off? And if they break off, then they're just looky-loos. What are they doing here? What bad message are we giving that we're wasting their time and our money, right? How do we solve this problem for everybody, right? So kind of clean that up and then get a straight click through. But again, I really think having resources and other takeaways for people just give you that longevity, like Chris was saying, referrals down the way.
So true. Chris, I'm curious. I mean, with like AI shaking up how content is created at the moment and obviously how it's consumed as well, are you actually noticing a shift in what actually lands with clients? I know you're speaking a lot about thought leadership and it's so vital, but surely with AI doing what it's doing, is there something happening right now?
Oh, heck yeah. So I am an SEO nerd and now I'm an AI nerd. So I test a lot of things on our website. So I'm putting up AI generated content on our website I test many different ways how we use AI to create content. I just want to see what it's doing. Are these, is Google smart enough to detect AI generated content through different various levels of how we create it? And I'm so happy to see that, Google catches that AI generated content I'm actually thrilled that our content is being indexed where we used AI in various different, oh, it's awesome, right? This shows me that what we're doing, that's the real thing until we get to the point of AGI, artificial general intelligence, which, we probably believe is like 3 to 5 years away. Then it's like, well, let's see how it, yeah. But so it's awesome. Like, and I proof in the pudding. When I talk with a potential customer, I show them, look, this is what we did. We're testing things on our website. Let me show you a piece of content that I wrote like on a weekend. Here are the results. It's doing amazing. You can track everything with GA4, right? It's like proof is in the pudding. If you want to work with a cheap SEO vendor, you're going to get cheap SEO. If you want to work with a good SEO vendor, that's going to get you results. Like, yeah, we're not the cheapest, but it's like, it works. And let me show you how it works. And the story. Yeah.
Is there anything that you would say that you're actually doing intentionally to actually spark referrals? Or do you believe that, the great work is just enough to keep new business coming in the door?
So I think both can be true, right? I think you can, have your hard work get you referrals, but you can also push them towards opening that conversation to others, right? Now, we don't really do anything like get 25% off if you refer anybody, but we have something called the Beacon Spotlight. So once a month, we showcase one of the companies that use the Silent Beacon product, right? So that goes through what they do. And then, it's just I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine, right? So it's not really a pay to play or anything like that. But when we allow people to voice what their company does and all the great things Silent Beacons help them achieve. And again, we're mostly for lone workers, home healthcare, situations where you're going to feel really unsafe and you want that added security in your hand. But you're really able to kind of figure that out through what we're doing.
Yeah, very strong opinion on that topic. I'm not a fan of referral programs. I hate when I buy something, you immediately get an email, right? It's like, hey, we have a referral program, or I hate it. It's not good. This is study. I'm not going to bore you with that. So what we do, basically 3-prong, right? So we ask clients if they're willing to give us a rating on Google Business Profile or DesignRush. That's very important. If people see that, people rated us highly on DesignRush, that's a referral from one of our clients, right? Then we do a lot of webinars. So yeah, I ask people, please take a moment to, give us a rating on Google Business Profile about the webinar. People are very likely to do that. And then what works really well, we do a lot of case studies. We have a lot of happy customers, and it's so easy to do case studies. And then I interview them. I actually use, Riverside. It's a podcasting software where I interview them about the case study and like, hey, are you happy? How you like working with us? How's your project manager? So that to me is a big time referral that I'm not going to, push these programs onto our clients. And that works really well. So that's the way I like to approach it. Yeah.
A lot of agency owners, they say the hardest part of scaling is actually keeping the quality high. There's a report out, Agency Analytics. They found 43% of agencies struggle with just that. So, Chris, I think I'm going to go back to you and just find out, how have you handled that trade-off between bringing in more leads and holding on to the kind of work and client trust that built your agency in the first place? It's almost like this sort of delicate balance, I guess, right?
Yeah, so we're back to how I built this agency, simply organic.
Yeah. Quality
over quantity. I think my business partner finally realized that this whole outreach kind of craziness, it's just like, it's a waste of time and money, right? We tried it, we really gave it a shot. So we're still a boutique agency. We're small. We're like 15, 14 people, something like that. We're small. And that's the way I like to keep it. Like if I do this, I have to enjoy running this business, right? And I want to talk to people that I want to have clients that we enjoy working with, and vice versa. We could potentially build this business into a bigger, soulless, big SEO agency, but that's not what I enjoy. So for me, it's quality over quantity. We're just going to optimize our website, right, to get the right kind of leads, that actually people that enjoy talking with me, and vice versa. I spend a lot of time doing this every day. So we're back to just like, we're an SEO agency. We need to be found organically. Also, if you do a search for international SEO expert, I mentioned that earlier, I'm number one, like global. It depends where you are, but I'm number one. That's like, when I talk to people, like, hey, do that search. This is who you talk to, it's like the real deal. So to me, I'm from Switzerland. I'm originally from Switzerland. We're known for quality, right? It works for that country. It works for me as an agency. And, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I enjoy. Yeah.
When a client comes to you, do you find there's often like a deeper need that they haven't quite named yet? Like in your experience, like what's the real problem that they're trying to solve? I mean, I guess it's sort of that sussing out moment in the beginning,
Oh man, I love that question. So selling is psychology, right? I've read so many books. I have not studied psychology, but I think I can relate to people. I ask the question at the beginning. You don't know what's going on with that person. Maybe they're going through a divorce or something is happening with their business. So I try to find out, is your business doing okay? Because if they're struggling, if we're their last hope, we're not a good fit for them, because then they're going to breathe down our neck and it's going to end in tears. Been there. And I'm super honest and straightforward about, what is our relationship going to look like? It has to be the right fit. So I ask a lot of questions. I try to get to the bottom of why they're actually reaching out to us. Only then, when I know that, then can I educate them about what we do, how it's going to benefit them. But it has to be the right fit. If that's not there, we're not going to do it. And it's awesome. People love it, right? I don't sell. It's just like, we have a conversation. Are we a good fit? It's like dating. It's just exactly the same methodology. Yeah.
Love that. Kenny, my next question is solely for you here. So I want to find out, as a safety tech founder, you're also an agency owner, what steps are you taking to stand out as a trusted strategic partner when businesses are choosing between providers?
So I think having that distinct differentiator between you and your competitors and being able to speak on it in a personal level builds that trust we talked about earlier. So I think Chris and I are in a unique situation, and a lot of people out there, maybe even watching this, are like, yeah, I'm not that lucky. I don't have SEO. Like I was number one for panic buttons and safety. I mean, years and years and years. Any company I worked with, anything, I always got us to number one, as obviously Chris has too. And that just kind of, the world is your oyster at that point, right? So people watching this, like, okay, these two guys are just doing things we're unable to achieve. So I would say, if you're watching this and you're wondering how we got to this point where we don't need to do outbound, where we realize our worth, where people come to us and pick us over others, and because of that SEO, you need to start with SEO, right? So you need to start with calling Chris. You need to start with emailing Fancy Name Studios, and then understand, or maybe do a Google course, or whatever's out there now to figure that out. Because a lot of people are going to be in a situation where they're crabs in a bucket fighting over the same bid. And I think we're in a lucky position where we're not having to do that. But that's decades of work to get to this point. Fast track that by listening to this podcast, obviously, and then finding courses maybe on YouTube about SEO. But I like Chris, I'm 100% SEO, and then the capabilities AI is going to bring to that. Ride that wave. One of the biggest regrets I have in life, when we used to have a movie series that I did in Hollywood, and then people started bootlegging DVDs, and then YouTube got big, and I fought YouTube hand and knife. People would put our films up there, our clips up there, and I would get it struck down, like, oh my gosh. I didn't go with technology. I was against it. So when AI is here, I'm going with AI. So follow the trends. Don't put your the sword in the ground and say, this is it. I just learned SEO. I'm not doing AI. You have to follow what's happening in tech or you'll get lost in the weeds 100%.
That's true. You need to evolve because things are changing and they're changing at a rapid speed right now. And in essence, many organizations will be left behind, unfortunately, if they don't grab the bull by the horns right now and start educating themselves on what is actually happening right now. So my next question is to both of you. I'll start out with you, Chris. I'd love to find out if there is someone like a peer, a mentor, or even a competitor who's had like a lasting impact on how you think about growth or decision making as a leader.
I love that question. So I love doing interviews like this where I meet, really intelligent, well-spoken people like Kenny. So I learn a lot from doing these interviews. And Kenny, if you're up for it, I'd love to have you on my podcast. I already have so many questions for you. So I sent you a connection request on LinkedIn. If you're up for it, I'll send you information. I'd love to hear your story, right? This is the real deal. So do I have people that I look up to? It's like the standard people that made it in SEO. You can learn a lot from them, but I take it down to a little bit more of a micro level where when I go to conferences, I talk to people and everybody has an amazing story. And there's people like Kenny that, man, so much about, my industry. Obviously you've been there and then you took it somewhere else. So it's a combination of, I know who I need to, listen to and read content from, but then you get so much value out of having conversations like these ones. So it's a little bit of a hybrid approach. Kenny, I look forward to continuing this conversation and really learning more from you. To me, it's a blend of how I get my information and, stay relevant in this rapidly changing industry.
Chris, that sounds great. And thank you for the shout out there. That was appreciated. So I have a couple friends / mentors in my life who I try to mimic the positives. And I like to try to find myself to be the dumbest person in the room because you're in the right room to learn, right? So one of my mentors owns a big company. I'll just call him Joe. His name is Joe. And he's so thoughtful, so kind, and so inspiring with every word he says. Even if we're at a restaurant, even if someone's just bringing me the bread, the way he interacts with people, his charisma, his charm, his way of making everyone feel like they're on a cloud is so important. And I've taken that, hijack that from my own business model because when you make people feel like they're on a cloud, you get more production out of them and you have a better experience altogether. So that would be something that a mentor / peer of mine has said to me and has stuck with me to this day.
Is there any advice that you could possibly give to any leaders out there or any, organizations? I mean, as you know, we're within the B2B space here at DesignRush. So if you have any advice that you'd like to part with today, that would be amazing. And then the same question would go for you as well, Kelley.
Stay relevant. That's the biggest thing in my space right now. Just to give you an example, ChatGPT was launched November of 2022. 2 months later, I gave a webinar for a globalization industry association on how generative AI is going to impact global digital marketing and multilingual SEO. So I watched probably like 120 hours of YouTube videos. I found the right kind of, conferences where the best people spoke about it. I became an expert. Honestly, at this point, I probably know more than most people about, Gen AI and SEO. Stay relevant. Most people are lazy, including me. So it's a bit of a hurdle, right? You have to invest that time. But if you don't stay relevant, it's a very competitive world out there. That's probably the biggest advice that I can give to fellow SEO agency owners. Yeah.
Burn out early. Know your thresholds. Do everything yourself that you can. Learn everything yourself you can. And then if it doesn't work, listen to what people are saying to you versus what you think people need to hear.
Chris, Kenny, this was amazing. Thank you so much for joining me on the DesignRush podcast. It was lovely having the both of you here. And I'm actually going to be stalking both of you now on LinkedIn to see how the connection is going to be going. Because it was lovely to see. I just love how everything evolved in this conversation here today. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
You.
Kenny, great to meet you.
Thank
Kia,
you.
thanks so much for the amazing interview.
Curious about what top brands look for when choosing an agency? Tune into our latest episodes where we reveal the decision-making secrets of leading brands. Subscribe to the DesignRush podcast and stay ahead of the competition.